In the previous examination, we explored the physical evidence that raised disturbing questions about Kurt Cobain's death. We examined medical evaluations, showing no suicidal ideation, analyzed the note that forensic experts believe may be two separate documents, and reviewed blood evidence and heroin levels that specialists say would have caused immediate incapacitation. We heard an account from someone claiming to have been present in the house that night, witnessing Kurt being coerced upstairs by individuals who arrived unexpectedly, and hearing what happened in those final moments. Now we must ask, what occurred after that incident? Why was the investigation closed so quickly? And why do experts continue questioning the original conclusion 3 decades later? According to the unverified testimony we examined, chaos erupted following the incident. People allegedly fled the residence immediately. The person sharing this account claimed they were told to leave Seattle, avoid authorities, and that speaking would be dangerous. This testimony has never been officially corroborated. The Seattle Police Department has not confirmed investigating these claims. What we know is that multiple people were near Kurt's residence during that period, without proper investigation protocols, including witness interviews and fingerprint analysis. These questions remain unanswered. The Seattle Police Department's handling of Kurt Cobain's death has been controversial among forensic professionals. Several standard procedures were not performed. Most notably, no fingerprints were collected from the weapon found at the scene. Department officials later explained that suicide determination was made quickly, so full forensic protocols weren't deemed necessary. However, forensic investigators note, you cannot definitively determine manner of death without completing the analysis that would support that determination. Dr. Cyril Wecht, reviewing available documentation, stated certain standard procedures appear bypassed. The crime scene wasn't secured with typical protocols. The greenhouse where Kurt's body was found was accessed by multiple individuals before comprehensive documentation. Some evidence collection appeared incomplete. Photographs documenting key details were reportedly never taken or have been lost. Critics argue these omissions prevent definitive conclusions. Supporters maintain the scene was clear enough. What's undisputed? Certain analyses that could answer questions were never performed. The case file contains numerous gaps. Film taken at the scene was misplaced for over a decade. When found in 2014, crucial photographs were still missing. Multiple attempts to access complete files have encountered obstacles. Some files are lost, records sealed, requests denied. If the investigation was thorough and conclusions certain, why resist independent review? Ironically, the most detailed examination came from a private investigator hired by Courtney Love herself. Before Kurt's body was discovered, Tom Grant, a former detective, was retained April 30, 1994, to locate Kurt. What Grant discovered reportedly led him to conclusions differing from his client's expectations. According to his later statements, he identified inconsistencies in accounts provided and found physical evidence elements that didn't align with the official narrative. Grant has stated publicly he believes the case warrants reopening. He raised specific questions about blood spatter patterns, evidence positioning, and action feasibility, given toxicology results. He emphasizes presenting questions rather than claiming definitive proof. Grant's perspective isn't universally accepted. Some experts found aspects unconvincing. Others state his questions deserve formal investigation. This division illustrates why the case remains controversial. The Seattle Police Department maintains Grant's concerns don't warrant reopening. Without addressing specific forensic questions, critics argue this position is difficult to defend. Grant's investigation was more thorough than the official one in certain respects. He interviewed witnesses police apparently didn't. He examined financial and timeline documentation the initial investigation may not have considered. He raised questions about physical evidence that appear unaddressed in original reports. Whether Grant's conclusions are correct is almost beside the point. The question is whether concerns raised deserve formal investigation. Many forensic experts believe they do. 1 month before his death, Kurt experienced a medical emergency in Rome, March 4, 1994. Found unconscious in his hotel room, he was hospitalized for days. The incident was attributed to accidental overdose, champagne and rohypnol. However, details struck observers as unusual. The attending physician, Dr. Osvaldo Galletta, later stated the rohypnol quantity seemed inconsistent with accidental ingestion, appearing more consistent with intentional high-dose administration. Kurt's friends reported he said he didn't remember taking the medication amount tests indicated. He reportedly took a few pills, but had no memory of ingesting the detected quantity. Additionally, witnesses reported hearing a loud audience from the room hours before Kurt was found unconscious. These accounts were documented, but never officially investigated deeply. Some investigators suggest the Rome incident deserves re-examination. They note if someone wanted to make a future death look like self-destructive behavior pattern, Rome would fit. Others maintain it was genuine accidental overdose, with connection. Medical records have never been fully released, so comprehensive analysis remains impossible. What's verified? Kurt survived Rome, returned to the United States, entered Exodus rehabilitation, then left days before his death. At his death, Kurt's estate was substantial. Beyond immediate assets, his catalog represented ongoing millions annually for decades. According to multiple sources, including his attorney, Kurt consulted with Rosemary Carroll about divorce proceedings weeks before death. Carroll later confirmed such conversations occurred. Kurt's grandfather reportedly stated Kurt discussed divorce plans and they'd been planning a meeting to discuss further. That meeting never occurred. Under the prenuptial agreement, financial implications of divorce versus widowhood were substantially different. Legal experts note typical structures provide significantly different outcomes depending on marriage ending through divorce or death. Divorce would reportedly have limited settlements significantly. As widow, full inheritance occurred under Washington state law. The difference was substantial. Limited settlement versus control of tens of millions with ongoing revenue. This context is relevant because financial motive is standard inquiry in suspicious deaths. This isn't about accusations, it's about investigative protocols that would typically apply. Beyond inheritance, there's legacy control. As widow, Courtney became decision-maker regarding Kurt's music and narrative. Over 3 decades, she's been involved in major decisions regarding the catalog. She negotiated releases, cute documentaries, controlled access to materials. Whether she would have this control following divorce is debatable. Again, noting this context isn't making accusations, it's observing what would typically be examined in thorough investigation. Over years since Kurt's death, several connected individuals died under circumstances some found noteworthy. Kristen Pfaff, a bass player for the band Hole, died of a drug overdose June 16, 1994, 2 months after Kurt. According to some friends, she'd reportedly been planning to leave the band and had expressed concerns. Some claimed she mentioned knowing things that troubled her, though this was never substantiated. She had reportedly been addressing addiction issues before her death. The death was ruled accidental. Another individual gave a filmed interview in which he allegedly claimed he'd been approached with an offer related to Kurt's death. These claims were never verified. This person died April 19, 1997, exactly 10 years after Kurt, in what was ruled an accidental death. Some acquaintances found circumstances unusual. Others noted factors that could explain the accident. These deaths may be entirely coincidental. Multiple deaths within social circles over years isn't inherently suspicious, particularly where addiction issues are prevalent. People die in accidents and from health complications. However, some investigators note these as part of a pattern. Individuals who witnessed, questioned, or claimed relevant information subsequently dying before formal testimony. Whether this pattern is significant or tragic coincidence remains debated. Noting these deaths isn't alleging connection. It's acknowledging that in thorough investigation, such circumstances would typically be examined. Let's separate certainty from dispute. Undisputed facts. Kurt consulted attorneys about divorce weeks before death. Multiple sources confirm this. Kurt showed no suicidal signs according to Exodus medical professionals documented in records. Handwriting in final note lines has been questioned by forensic examiners using modern analysis. Kurt's toxicology showed levels specialists say would cause rapid incapacitation. Lack of blood on Kurt's hand has been noted as unusual by pathologists. Shell casing position appears inconsistent per ballistics experts. No fingerprints were collected from the weapon. Crime scene wasn't processed with full protocols. Attempts to access files encountered obstacles. These are verifiable facts documented in records, evaluations, and expert testimony. They don't prove alternatives, but explain persistent questions. What remains disputed, whether facts indicate reinvestigation need, whether witness accounts are credible, whether Rome connects to death, whether financial circumstances are relevant, whether connected deaths are significant. Reasonable people examining evidence reach different conclusions. That itself is important. This isn't a fringe position. Forensic pathologists, experienced investigators, and legal experts have stated they find elements troubling. Resistance to reinvestigation raises questions. If evidence clearly supports original conclusion, modern forensic review would confirm that finding. Refusal to conduct review despite expert requests is what many find puzzling. For 30 years, those who loved Kurt have lived with unanswered questions. This isn't about refusing loss. It's about whether investigation was thorough enough to warrant confidence. The purpose isn't accusations against individuals. It's asking whether standard procedures were followed and whether remaining questions are valid. Many forensic professionals believe the case would benefit from modern reinvestigation. They emphasize this isn't about assuming outcomes. It's about applying proper science to questions left unresolved. What would proper reinvestigation look like? Experts outline steps. Fingerprint analysis using modern techniques that can recover prints from decades-old evidence. Independent forensic review by pathologists using current technology. Formal documentation of witness accounts with credibility assessment. Comprehensive review of records establishing timelines. Advanced document analysis using technologies unavailable in 1994. Toxicology consultation, addressing action feasibility given measured levels. Ballistics reconstruction, determining if evidence positioning is explicable. These steps wouldn't predetermine outcomes. They'd apply current standards where such standards weren't comprehensively applied initially. If evidence supports original conclusion, analysis would confirm it. If it reveals inconsistencies, those warrant further investigation. For those concerned about unanswered questions, appropriate options exist. Organizations working on potential wrongful deaths provide information about case handling. Legal advocacy groups examine cases where standards may not have been met. Supporting such organizations advocates for thorough investigations. Individuals can contact elected representatives expressing concern about standards. They can support journalism examining cases with unanswered questions. They can share factual information respectfully, keeping attention on legitimate forensic questions. Seeking answers through proper channels isn't assuming particular answers. Asking for investigation isn't claiming to know findings. The goal isn't proving preconceived conclusions, but having genuine questions addressed through proper science. Kurt Cobain cannot speak anymore, but questions surrounding that day can still be addressed. Physical evidence exists. Modern techniques can provide answers impossible 30 years ago. For those who loved Kurt, for Frances who grew up without her father, for everyone believing suspicious deaths deserve thorough investigation, these questions matter. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's forensic science and investigative standards. This isn't refusing tragedy, it's ensuring conclusions were based on complete investigation, using appropriate protocols. 30 years have passed, but evidence doesn't stutter. Questions don't become invalid with time. Modern technology provides tools previously unavailable. Those tools could answer questions definitively. If original conclusion is correct, proper reinvestigation will confirm it, providing closure from certainty. If elements warrant further examination, time passage makes it more important. Truth deserves establishment through proper investigation following standard protocols. For Kurt, for loved ones, for his legacy, and for the principle that every suspicious death deserves thorough examination, these questions deserve answers. The evidence exists. Questions remain valid. Finding answers through modern forensic science remains possible.